In today's video, we're going to talk about macro hoarding.
All by myself.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com, and today's video topic is kind of specific, so let me explain what I mean by the term macro hoarding. So, as flexible dieting has become more and more popular, the term flexible dieting itself has broken up into different factions, okay? So, back when I started competing in bodybuilding about 10 years ago, everyone was doing the 7 magic food diet, I like to call it, where you basically limited yourself to the 7 foods that work, right? So these are, they're probably a little bit different depending on where you live, but they're always going to be things like a sweet potato, some white fish, chicken, broccoli, vegetables, things like that. Some people use oatmeal. Whatever they are, they're basically a very limited, restricted group of foods that you use to diet. And you use that because they work. Well, then here comes flexible dieting. And when flexible dieting came out, on the message boards, a lot of people would say, hey, if I'm in prep, can I eat this? If I'm in prep, can I have peanut butter? If I'm in prep, can I have a donut? And for those of us that were in the natural bodybuilding movement, where Dr. Joe and Lane had popularized the term flexible dieting, tracking your macros, a very common response would be, sure, if it fits your macros. The IIFYM moniker was born. I still remember the first time I saw somebody type IIFYM and I was like, what the hell does that mean? Now it's, very common to hear IIFYM. But recently, it seems like the term IIFYM has come to cover a lot of issues with nutrition that I don't agree with. And so I don't really use that term anymore. Although I still kind of agree with the principle, I like the term flexible dieting or structured flexibility because I feel like those that use the word IIFYM, if it fits your macros, only care about macros. And I feel like if you're doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice if you want the best possible results. Ultimately, yes, you can just hit your calories for the day and have some success, but if you want your physique to look and perform and your body to act and perform the best it possibly can, then you're missing a little bit if you're doing just IIFYM or just hitting your macronutrient goals. And so I want to talk a little bit about macronutrient hoarding because I've had some clients come to me talking about intermittent fasting, and this is something I actually did myself for a while. So I like to talk about topics that I have some experience with as a coach and personally. So when calories got low a couple years ago when I was dieting, I found that if I skipped breakfast, I saved all those macros, calories for later in the day, and I was able to have some bigger meals. And I thought, hey, this is really working. I would just get up, have a coffee, wouldn't eat anything till about noon or 1 o'clock. Then I would have my first meal, go to the gym, and I would have plenty of calories left for the day. But a few issues have arisen, in my opinion, with macro hoarding, and you're free to disagree, but this is just my experience. For those of us that train with regularity and performance is paramount, I feel like the old model of spacing your meals out 4 to 5 meals apart, so I get 4 meals a day, sometimes 5, depending on the day, sometimes 3 if I sleep in and go to bed early. But the idea of spacing your meals out improves the body's digestion, improves the body's ability to use nutrients properly, and I'll explain a little bit why I think that is. You see, when you eat a really large meal, your body has to take a long time to digest that. If you then have that meal and have to eat again before that meal is completely digested, you start to get that bloated feeling, you might get gassy. And what I believe is happening here is that your digestive system is not handling this the best that it possibly can. then you might get some inflammation in your digestive system. You might have some diarrhea. You might have some issues with gas. These are all indications that there are problems. So I told you that what I did was I did some macro hoarding, right? I would save a lot of my macros for the end of the day. Well, when I moved in a few months ago, I didn't have a kitchen. So I started going to a company to get my meals. And what I immediately noticed was these meals were pretty small macros for myself. Now, granted, I'm a 220-pound guy, so my macros are going to be way off of what everybody else's are, especially, if someone's half my size, like my wife. But the meals for me were pretty small. I will say the average meal is probably around 40 grams of protein, 15 grams of fat, 30 grams of carb, right? A very nice full meal. So what I did was I purchased a bunch of these and I started eating at normal times. I ate when I wake up. I ate around noon. I ate around 4. I ate around 10. And I would maybe sometimes eat around 1 or 2, depending on my day. But you see, I was eating these kind of regular meals throughout the day. And I immediately noticed something. As soon as I stopped doing the macro hoarding, my body composition improved. My body recovery and training performance improved. And I felt better throughout the day. I didn't feel like I was constantly undigested. So I would suggest, if you're someone who's taken the approach of IIFYM, it only matters what your macro goals are, start looking at some more well-rounded options just to see it. Just try it out, see how it goes. You see, the meals that I started purchasing always had a small veggie source, some broccoli, some asparagus, something like that. They always had a nice carb in there, like a rice or a potato, and they always had a lean meat source, egg whites, steak, chicken, and one of my favorites is the pork. But you see, there's a balance to each meal, and that balance really allows the body to digest, get the nutrients, and move on to the next meal. Whereas what I was doing before was not eating at all. Around noon or 1 o'clock, I would jump in heavy-handed with like some pastries, I would go full bore with that meal. I might eat a 1,500 calorie meal because I needed to get my calories for the day, and I just wouldn't feel right the rest of the day. And honestly, it's not something you really notice until you try it both ways. So the idea of macro hoarding, it might be good for some people in certain situations, but if you're a physique athlete in performance and body composition, I will say this, I've also noticed that I tend to keep a better look. I have a denser, harder look to my physique at all times. I'm not going through periods of being hydrated and dehydrated. Just the constant influx of nutrients. It's reminded me of the first time I did a contest prep back in 2008 when I really took the time to plan out my meals for the week, and it's almost something I lost sight of because I was going through this journey, but I'm back now, really focusing on eating every couple hours, small meals, and instead of macro hoarding and just hitting my goals for the day, which is great. For some people that is great, but this topic for today, I just want to talk about the idea, maybe it might be better for some people to try spacing out the meals properly and planning ahead. And I know that's harder. It's been harder for me. Fortunately, I can afford a meal prep service for some of my meals throughout the day. Sometimes as many of 3 of my meals a day come from that prep service. But I have placed an importance on that and a high value. So something I might suggest, but hey, it's Labor Day. Why are you guys listening to me? Go spend time with your friends and family. Respect the rock. That's right. Bam. Hope you guys are having an awesome Monday, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
By myself.